Where's the popcorn?
We got chocolate.
All right, why don't we get started? So I'll give a little introduction. For those who don't know me, I'm Michael Cantwell, president of this August club. And one sad announcement, probably most of you know this already, but Nancy Albano, who was a committed activist, moved from Hawaii back, I think, in time for Obama's first run, died, had a stroke, and she was just a great worker. She was president of several clubs. She was president of this club. In fact, I took over from her 5 years ago or so. She's been in bad health for a number of years, but still was out there, pushing, coming to meetings, coming up with ideas, and it's a big loss. So I'll say mahalo, Hawaiian, for thank you. And word about the format here. We have 5 or 6 or 7 questions, depending on how it goes. And since it's only 2 candidates, we decided to allow more time. You don't have to use it, but 3 minutes for opening questions, opening statements, and 2 minutes for closing statements, 2 minutes to answer each question for each candidate, and then 1 minute each to reply and reply. And Char Lane over here is the timekeeper. She'll hold up, when 30 seconds left, 15 seconds left, etc. Before we start, we have some candidates in the room and representatives of candidates. Charmin Postal, right over here, is running for the school board, District 5, and that is, we've got to keep Democrats on the school board. And then we have Jody Young. Where's Jody? Representing Greg Lerman, running for state attorney. And Willenta Sanvilla in the back, representing our campaign manager for Alexia Cox. And if you two guys can, we meet the 3rd Thursday of every month.
Right.
The 3rd Thursday of June, whatever that is, if you can check with the candidates. I know there's 2 other candidates, so it could get messy, but the primary is coming up. So
that's June 20th?
Yeah. June, yeah, okay. And guys, if you want to come up, Adam Frankel has been a city commissioner in Delray Beach for as long as I can remember, long before I got here. And Dan Eisinger is the chief assistant to Carey Haughwout, our beloved public defender, who is retiring after a long time and will be missed. But so why don't we get started with opening statements, and we'll do it alphabetically. My first name or last name? Because that does make a difference. Why don't you start?
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, Delray Democrats. How are you tonight? This club is very special to me because over 20 years ago, this is the first club I've went to. Does anyone know Sam Lender or Jay Slavin?
Sam and
Mhm.
Marion
Yeah,
Hewitt,
yeah.
David's mother and my aunt.
Yeah.
So,
I particularly knew Jay Slavin because she was a neighbor of my grandparents in Rainbury Bay. And she really, really took very good care of that neighborhood. But more importantly, when this club met at Veterans Park back in the day, with Shirley Johnson, who was a colleague of mine on the Delray Beach City Commission, very active. And it's great to see that it's still going strong after 20 years. But my name is Adam Frankel. I moved to Delray Beach after law school in 1998. But I started coming to Delray Beach in 1982. My grandparents had a place on Linton Road in a community called Shady Woods. And then a couple of years later, they moved to Rainbury Bay. Every vacation I could, I'd leave Toledo, Ohio, where I'm from, and I'd come down here to Delray Beach, and I really fell in love with it. I went to Ohio State. Uh-oh. I guess the Zoom people don't like what I'm saying.
let's mute them, David.
Sure, thank you. After law school, I did move down here full time, and I started my first job in the legal profession at the state attorney's office. And I worked there from 1999 through 2001. Oh. Sure. And I was a volunteer attorney. Oh,
We can't see you guys.
oh, that's probably better.
Zoom people
At
can.
least for me.
Yeah, that is.
So, yeah. Okay,
Sorry.
no
You have
problem.
extra time for this.
Yeah,
don't
no
you?
problem.
We're-
We got plenty of time, I'm
I
sure.
don't want to go first.
Yeah. 2000, I was a volunteer attorney for the Al Gore campaign. In 2009, I first ran and successfully won my seat for the Delray Beach City Commission, where I served for 12 years, and I was elected here in the city of Delray a total of 5 times. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, and I'm looking forward to the questions, and thank you for having me.
Good evening. Nice to see you all again. My name is Dan Eisinger, and I am currently the Chief Assistant at the Public Defender's Office right now. If you don't know what the Public Defenders do, the short story is that we essentially represent 4 people that are charged with crimes. We have an office of about 100 lawyers, 100 staff. We have a budget of about $18.3 million. I personally have been at the Public Defender's Office since I graduated from law school. This has been my passion. I've been dedicated to it, loyal to the cause. I started there in 2003, so I've spent my entire 20 to 21-year legal career there. As Michael said, Carey has been your elected public defender since 2000, so I started not long after she started. I'm proud to say that she's endorsing my campaign. I've been her chief assistant the last 6 years or so, but in her leadership team the last 13 years. A little bit about myself, my journey to the Public Defender's Office really started, I don't know, probably when I was a teenager. I grew up here in South Florida in Palm Beach County. My dad ran a social services nonprofit agency serving the intellectually disabled in Palm Beach County in Riviera Beach. So it became very clear to me at a very early age that there are a lot of people a lot less fortunate than myself. And I sort of decided pretty early on that I wanted to sort of blend my desire to help people in the social services world and also be a litigator. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be in court. I wanted to try cases. So when it came time to decide where I wanted to go after law school, I went to the University of Florida. I think it's still considered the best law school in Florida. I kept hearing this name, Carey Haughwout, Carey Haughwout, Carey Haughwout. And being from Palm Beach, I knew she had started a couple years before. And I said, all right, well, let's go give this lady a shot. I don't know. It sounds like she's doing some special work in West Palm Beach. And I just fell in love with it. I came down. I became the litigator I wanted to be. I've tried about 150 cases in my career, including death penalty cases, serious crimes cases, and everything under the sun. My real focus now is trying to provide sort of a holistic services to our clients, to our community. That's really where my passion is. I'm dedicated to it. I think I've proven that over the years. I thank you for being here. I thank Michael for having a public defender only forum. I think that shows, in all seriousness, that this is an important race. This is an important job. This is a constitutional office, just like the sheriff, just like the others. So I really applaud you all for having just the two of us, so we could sort of tell you about us and hopefully show some contrast between our candidacies. Thank you so much.
Okay, first question. And you led right into it. The Office of Public Defender fulfills a critical function in our democracy. The Sixth Amendment guarantees everyone the right to an attorney in criminal prosecutions. For those unable to pay for private counsel, the public defender assures them of the protection, and this thus fulfills the promise of the Sixth Amendment. Please tell us what experience and training makes you the best person for the job. So we really should alternate first answers, which means you're up again.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, like I said in my opening statement, I guess, my training experience, this is what I do. I've learned from the best. The Public Defender's Office in Palm Beach County has only had 2 PDs in the last 50+ years. I think that speaks a lot to sort of how that office has been run, especially under Carey's leadership. So what better training experience is to get to work with the best, right? So I've been able to sit second chair when I first got started doing homicide work with Carey. I got to do, I get to go around the whole state, even around the country. I was in Ohio not too long ago, training other lawyers how to be great public defenders. So my training experience is boots on the ground, right? So I'm not a politician. I'm not someone who's run for office before. I have dedicated my entire career to helping indigent people who are charged with crimes. We have a staff of 100 people, 100 lawyers, 100 staffers, and I'm proud to say that they're all behind me 100%. There's nothing I wouldn't do for them, and I know there's nothing they wouldn't do for me. Dan is here, Casmon from our office, and I think the proof is in the pudding in terms of what I've been able to accomplish at the office all this year.
So to answer your question, I think we're both qualified. What I've got to know from Dan is he's a good person. He's a gentleman. He's a very nice person, and he's a very good lawyer. No question about it. As Dan said, there's been 2 public defenders in 50 years. I worked for both of them. I've seen before Carey and during Carey. I worked for Mr. Jornby, Richard Jornby, and Carey Haughwout as well. There are things that used to be done that I think should be brought back to the office. At Delray, we used to have 3 full-time public defenders assisting everyone. Now there's maybe 1 that I see in the courtroom when I go to Judge D'Amico's court. I think it needs to be fully staffed because the state attorney and the public defender, we agree in judicial economy that if things are done well at the satellite courthouses, it relieves the burden to the judicial system in West Palm Beach. I also think that my time as a Delray Beach City Commissioner would be very beneficial in this role. You can say you want this program or you want this service, but without knowing the people in Tallahassee, without knowing the county commissioners in West Palm Beach, you can't get funding for it. I know all these people. I've had relationships with these people for well over 10 years. So I believe that my well-rounded experience would be a very, very beneficial role if I'm elected public defender on August 20th.
Each of you have a 1-minute reply if you want to use it.
Real quick, I'll just say in terms of the Delray branch, essentially all it is it's a feeder branch to downtown. So if you want to try to resolve your case, these are low-level misdemeanor traffic types cases. But I can tell, I'm not sure when Adam's been there, but we do have Dan Vogel and Diane Chester fully staffing, and they have about, gosh, they're older than me. So about 50 years experience between the 2 of them. So it's fully staffed. I think what you'll see between us a little different is that I've got the trial experience, the ability to train people to make sure that our clients are represented to their fullest. And that's something, as much as Adam is a nice guy, that's not his experience. Having a small criminal traffic practice in Delray is not the same thing as doing heavy duty criminal work downtown. So you'll see, I think that's just one of the differences between the 2 of us.
Have a minute?
Yeah.
Dan and Diane are in Delray. I've never seen them in court, and I was there in front of Judge D'Amico last week. They are never in court together. If a defendant goes to the Delray courthouse, they speak to Marty Epstein or Nadine Reynolds. Who are they? They're state attorneys. If you're charged with a crime, and there's more than just traffic tickets or infractions, there's DUIs, there's other serious matters. The first people they talk to are the state attorneys. I don't think that's right. I think that's wrong. Now, one thing I also learned as a Delray Beach City Commissioner is you don't know everything. There are certain areas that I didn't know. I was good at downtown, I was good at the beach, I was good at certain areas. But if there was a issue that I just didn't know, you rely on experts. And that's what I'm going to bring in. We have very good attorneys at the Public Defender's Office, but there are other people that are more qualified in death penalty cases or other matters that I'm going to rely on. And I'm going to get the best staff. And if I have to bring some new people in, I'm going to.
Thank you. David's gonna read this
I
question.
get to do this one because my last actual real working job was as a computer programmer at Legal Aid in New York. And in that position, I got to know the top people in the criminal, civil, and juvenile divisions. I worked with all of them. And one of the interesting things I learned is that staff at Legal Aid everyone wants to work there when you get out of law school. You get this incredible amount of experience, you get mentoring, you can't possibly do better to start out. But after 2 or 3 years, people either leave or they become lifers, right? So they either stay at Legal Aid or they go out and develop cases on their own. So the question becomes, which you've kind of already answered, is, what did you learn in staying? And what did you learn in leaving that would help you in the new career as a public defender?
Sure. Me first, I think, to start with.
Yeah, I think you get this.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very interesting question because I go back to 1999 and when I started with Richard Jordanby in the Public Defender's Office in January of that year, and I was working at Gun Club, I was making $28,000 a year. And the reason why I lived at Rainbury Bay with my grandparents is I couldn't afford a place. Now, the wages have increased substantially, but in the 2.5 years at the Public Defender's Office, I learned a lot. I learned not only how to try cases and the law, but I met people. I met the bailiffs. I met the state attorneys. I met the clerks. I met the security people that let you in when you're entering the building. The interactions of the day-to-day, whether it be when I worked at Gun Club, where I worked at Delray, when I worked in West Palm Beach, it was the people that really, really made a difference. But after working there for 2.5 years, and Ms. Howard came in, it was, after 6 months, I was brought into an office and basically it was time to leave. So I don't know if I would have stayed longer. It was a really, really good experience. And for me, who came down here from Toledo, Ohio, not knowing anyone in the court systems between the judges and just everyone that I met, it was second to none as an education beyond what I learned at the University of Toledo College of Law. Yeah.
So the benefit of being part of the criminal justice system in Palm Beach County for the last 20 years, and Adam kind of said this already, is the relationships you develop are invaluable. So I go to the Criminal Justice Commission, I go to the Board of County Commissioners. They trust me as a fact matter expert on criminal law and what's going on in our system. So I know all of the constitutional officers. I know every single judge that works downtown. I know every state attorney. I know all the decision makers, all the stakeholders. And I've proven over the years, I'm able to work with these folks. I personally initiated 2 courts, which is a big deal, a misdemeanor mental health court division and a driving under suspension court. That was done not only to help our clients, but that was done to help the community. We wanted to make sure that the mentally ill were getting services and treatment. So we've been doing that for about a year. We just celebrated that 2 days ago with Commissioner Greg Rice. He came to court and participated in the ceremony. And with driving under suspension, we knew it was important to help people get their licenses back. The idea that people next to you driving on the road didn't have a license, didn't have insurance was sort of a scary idea. So we went to Mr. Ehrenberg and we said, can you join with us on this? And he said, Dan, let's do it. So those are the types of things I've done based on my 20 years of experience and knowledge and relationships. And I'm really proud of all of that.
No follow.
Okay, I think, yes. All right, next question.
Question, though. Very good question.
And there's gonna be overlap on some of these. We've read many reports of public defenders' offices being underfunded, overworked, and experiencing high turnover, preventing the attorneys from giving the kind of attention that's needed to each case. I don't know if it's as bad as legal aid in New York, but that is pretty bad. Is this the case in Palm Beach County? And if you're elected, how would you address this? So, and I think, yeah.
So, I'm happy to say that we are a very healthy office in Palm Beach County. We pay our staff starting out $74,000 once they come and pass the bar. So that's the highest
Wow.
rate for public defenders in Florida. So you might want to know, how do we do that? How do we pay more than those in Miami and Broward and other places like Orlando and Tampa? The way we've been able to do is because we know what we're doing, right? So we are strong, we are lean, we have people like Dan who are willing to come to work every single day and put everything they have into it. We don't have figureheads. We don't have just trainers who don't have caseloads. We make sure that every lawyer on staff is carrying a caseload to make sure that their caseloads stay down. So our average in felony cases right now is about 69 clients. Broward, I think, is closer to 150 or 200. And that's because of the leadership we have in Palm Beach County. Do we have attrition, which is people leaving the office? Of course. And that's a healthy thing. I think that's a good thing, right? So you come, you spend 3 to 5 years. Now it's time to move on. We bring folks that are ready to go. We have 20 graduates from law school coming in August. NYU, UCLA, Ohio State,
No way.
Florida, all over. And you know why they're coming? They're coming because of us, because they know our reputation. They know what kind of services we provide. They know that we care about our lawyers. We pay them the best that we can, highest in the state. And that's why they're coming. And it's an exciting time when they show up in October. They're ready to roll.
You know, I don't think there's going to be much difference of what I can add to that. We are very fortunate that for many years, we've had a very strong public defender's office in Palm Beach County and the state attorney's office too. From the times I am up in West Palm Beach or Delray. I mean, Delray, the state attorneys have been there for, I used to work with Nadine Reynolds, so I was there some 20 years ago. She's been in the office for a while, but both the state attorney and the PD's office, the men and women who are attorneys, they stick around. They do a great job. But I think there's things that can be improved. I think if you go to the current public defender's website, it is woefully antiquated. If I have an attorney that I want to look up at the public defender's website, there's no emails listed, there's no phone numbers directly to them. I think that can be improved. I think there's areas that an outsider can come in, such as myself, like Carey Haughwout did 20-some years ago, that could bring an outside approach, a fresh touch to some of these things. One thing that I know Dan is proud of is his establishment of mental health court. In the United States, we have 500 juvenile mental health courts. How many do we have in Florida? How many do we have in Palm Beach County? 0. I don't understand. In Texas, which is a pretty red state, they have juvenile mental health courts. So if elected, one of my first orders of business would be to work with the newly elected state attorney and have that established. Certain things that I've done elsewhere that if you take a look at, I think they could be a good fit in Palm Beach County. And I would like to have the opportunity to do that.
Just real quick, the main reason we don't have a juvenile mental health court in Florida is that there actually are better services for kids in the court system than other places. So, for example, every kid that goes through juvenile court, I don't know if Adam has represented any kids, but I have, they get screened, right? They get a mental health evaluation. So that's already kind of baked into the way things work already. If there's an incompetent child who can't stand trial or can't proceed with litigation, they are dealt with appropriately already. So a juvenile mental health court would essentially be redundant, repetitive. It's just basically what is make sure they're competent, and that's already happening automatically here in Florida. Thankfully, we do treat our kids better than we do our adults, which is why it was so important that we started the adult mental health court.
And that'd be one thing I would respectfully disagree with Dan. If it's good for Texas, why isn't it good for Florida? If it's good in Ohio, why isn't it good for Florida? Now, in the many times I was in front of Judge Moses Baker and the other juvenile judges in Delray, Judge Baker was there forever, juvenile court. They do provide some services, but it's interesting to me that in Texas, they have a program and a system for juvenile mental health, where it would be good if we establish something similar here in Palm Beach County, because I think the goal of both the public defenders and the state attorneys, we don't want repeat customers. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. But why not be able to give kids the services and perhaps make them not come back as adults? I think it'd be a good opportunity.
Move this question up since we're talking about juveniles. Florida is one of only 18 states that allows juveniles to be sentenced to life in prison without parole. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, Florida is the #1 state in prosecuting youth as adults on felony charges. The majority of young offenders turn to the public defender's office for help. The Supreme Court has prohibited the imposition of life sentence without parole for juveniles under 18 who did not commit homicide, but they reserved judgment on the possibility of a life sentence for juveniles who did commit a homicide. What are your thoughts about Florida's laws regarding juvenile offenders, and what changes, if any, would you suggest the voters ask their state legislators to make?
Change on that. Do we want to add the possibility of life sentence without parole at the end there? I think that was the difference, and it didn't say it.
No, I thought it did say a life sentence
At
without.
the beginning, it says there's a life sentence without parole for juveniles who did not commit homicide. Then it says it left open the possibility of life sentence to the juveniles who did.
Right, without parole. Yeah,
Without parole.
yeah, I
Okay.
thought that
Sorry,
was okay.
I just wanted to be clear.
Okay. Who goes first?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Oh, you did the last survey for I had.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, it's me?
you start.
Okay, good. That's the hardest part, figure it out.
Yes.
So it's a very complex question, and I think it's best served when you have the state attorneys in here next month, because, you know, they're charged enforcing the laws. We would be in charge of defending those that would be in this category. I think it's very difficult without looking at a juvenile's mental capacity to throw them in a category as an adult. Gabe Irvine is here. He's a member of my team. He defended and saved the life of a young man in Broward who was at Parkland and did the shooting. It is very, very complex to get in the mind of someone who is charged with such a horrific act. But I do think that looking at obviously the age, mental capacity, and other factors would go into whether it would be applicable here. I don't particularly believe in the death penalty. I just think, particularly with juveniles, it's very harsh, and it's a tough situation. It's very sad to hear that Florida is up there in that category. So
Florida.
yeah, yeah.
Well, let's just get a couple of things straight. So we don't have the death penalty for kids, thank God. Even Florida doesn't have that, so you don't have to worry about that. I think the question goes to, how do we feel about kids being charged as adults, A, and kids getting life sentences for non-homicide offenses. And so I've had the privilege to represent kids who back in the 80s and 90s were given life sentences for non-homicide offenses. Does that all make sense, what a non-homicide offense is? So in other words, a kid who committed a robbery goes to trial, loses, and gets life in prison at the age of 17. So it's not complicated to me. That's wrong. It's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. We know it's wrong because the way a kid is at 16 or 15 or 17 isn't the way they're going to be at 30 or 35 or 40. Judges should have discretion to bring those kids back. And thank God that's what Brian Stevenson accomplished with his litigation at the Supreme Court. And I got to represent one of those kids. And the judge said, you know what? He isn't the same kid that committed that robbery when he was 15. Now he's 35. So she did reduce his sentence. He's been a model prisoner in DO's Department of Corrections. He's made a real life change because we know from experts and doctors that a kid's brain at 15 is not the same as when he's an adult or when she's an adult. So to me, it's not very complicated. And thank God the law has changed in Florida some, and our office will continue to litigate those cases successfully.
Well, we'll hold that question for next month.
Yeah.
So, this question involves the representation of defendants accused of heinous crimes. I'm going to say crimes of moral turpitude, which you learn in the first semester of criminal law is a bad thing. You don't want to be on trial for that. I bring it up because one of the judges several years ago at the judges forum, one of the candidates, and he'll remain unnamed, about 7 of them lined up, and he said, you know, we're all qualified, we're all good attorneys, but I have one thing that distinguishes me from my colleagues up here. I have moral turpitude, and I'm in the back, and I'm, you know, hitting my head and saying, what are you know, people are pulling out their phones to look up moral turpitude. A friend of mine suggested what he meant was moral rectitude, but not a happy mistake. But he did get elected, so representing clients accused of such heinous crimes, public defenders can't really pick and choose their clients. When you're in private practice, you can. So here's you have different views on this. Dan, what are your feelings about having to defend people who may be guilty of committing such crimes if you were in private practice? Are there potential clients you would refuse to represent on those grounds? And Adam, have you ever refused to defend a client who you feel may have been guilty of such a crime? And how do you feel about the likelihood that if elected, your office would be required to represent? So I think we start with Dan, and I'll read your question again.
I think I got it.
So a little bit about me, you know, I chose not to go into private practice. I've been asked to go to firms in the past, recruited to go to civil firms in the past, and I chose not to. The reason I chose not to is I've always wanted to represent poor people. I wanted to represent the underdog. I wanted to be in court and fight for their rights. Either you believe in the Constitution or you don't. Either you believe what the framers and the founders believed in terms of everybody deserves a lawyer in court representing them, or you don't. So to me, it doesn't matter how serious the crime. I'm going to be in there fighting to protect that person's rights. Now, if that person gets convicted, then that person gets convicted. And then it's up to the judge to do whatever sentence he or she thinks is appropriate. But I cannot refuse any type of client, nor would I want to. I guess the hypothetical is if I was in private practice, would I possibly not take a certain kind of case? Again, you know, I never wanted those decisions. I never wanted money to impact the way I practice law. And if you're a private practitioner, that's kind of what happens, right? Can you pay me $30,000? Can you pay me $40,000? If you pay me this much, then I need to spend this much on depositions. I'm not a businessman. I never wanted any of that stuff. I wanted that case in front of me. Dear Dan, this is your client. Meet Mr. Joe, and let's go. That's what I wanted my career to be, and that's what it is. So while I appreciate the idea that I could have been in private practice, it was never a reality for me. That's not where my heart is.
So first I want to know, Nancy, who was the judge? Not joking.
Ask me later.
Oh, okay. I have refused a couple cases, not many, you know, in being in private practice for about 20 years now. I have, not because of money. It was just because of the circumstances around it. I just didn't feel comfortable. We also I also in my private legal career, I've represented people that had no money, couldn't afford anything, but I like them, I like their family, and I believe that they needed assistance, so I've done that. The hardest case I took on was an attempted murder case. A gentleman was charged at the Opal Grand, but it was, I don't know if it was the Holiday Inn or the Marriott, but attempted murder case was the strongest or the most harsh case in my private career. As a public defender, I represented and assisted many individuals that were charged with heinous crimes. I believe it is the duty of the public defender's office to represent everyone. Everyone is entitled under the Constitution to an attorney. And we have a wonderful public defender's office that has done that, at least in the 20+ years that I've been in Palm Beach County. And I hope to continue that in the future.
All I'll say about our office is there was a really crazy, horrible homicide, multiple victim homicide years ago. And while the defendant didn't have any money, his family were quite wealthy. And so he had talked to a couple really distinguished lawyers in our community. Richard Lubin was one, Jack Goldberg was another. And they were going to pay the lawyer upwards of $500,000 to represent their son. And both of those lawyers said, you know what? You're better off working with Carey and Dan and save your money. And those two are going to help your son. And we got him a life sentence. Carey was lead counsel. I was co-counsel. That tells you a lot about, I think, our office. I find it a little bit interesting. Adam graciously says very nice things about me, very nice things about our office. Well, it is the office it is because I'm there. So it's a bit of a weird argument to me. But I appreciate the compliments. And we'll continue on with the great work that we've always had.
Well, I will continue to be gracious because you are a gentleman. You have every time I've interacted with you. But this public defender race that we're in, it's not for who the best attorney is. It's not who's done the most death penalty cases. It's to run an office. I don't know if Dan's ever done a budget. I've done 12 of them. I don't know if Dan's ever negotiated contracts. I've had the police union, the fire union, the general employees. I don't know if Dan's ever been to Tallahassee. I've never seen him up there for Palm Beach County days. I go every year I had gone every year as a Delray Beach City Commissioner. The office we're running for is a well-rounded position, not who does the best job in court. Dan, he does a great job in court, no question about it. But because there's more information and expertise needed, I believe I'm the best person for the job.
Okay. Couple more questions here, but I think you basically answered them. So
That's good.
why don't we
Question 5 is a little different, I think.
go ahead?
This question involves public safety. Many people don't like tax dollars, using tax dollars for legal representation for indigent people. What do you say to voters who feel this way, aside from the 6th Amendment, about what the office's work means to public safety?
I think that's a great question. In my role as Delray Beach City Commissioner, here's what everyone says. We want this, we want this, we want this, but we don't want to pay for it. That's what everyone says. We want the best police officers. We want the best fire. We want the best employees. We want the best city manager. But when they, we may have to raise taxes. Oh, no, sorry, we don't want it anymore. So to those people, I say, while there are taxes and there are certain monies that are going funding for these positions, it is money well spent. The public service that both the state attorneys and the public defender's office do for the residents of Palm Beach County are amazing. I should note that both police unions have endorsed me in this campaign because they know my relationship with our first responders. I have a 12-year track record of fighting for the men and women in the police department and the fire department. So to those people, I would say it's money well spent and you'll get your return on your money.
Years ago when I was first starting out, I had a couple police chiefs come up to me and say, can you sit on some boards with us, public safety boards? And I was sort of naive and young. I was like, what the heck do you want me for? I'm defending the folks that you're arresting. And they said, no, you don't get it. You know what it takes to make sure they don't reoffend. We need your input as much as we need the prosecutors. And so for all these years, I've sat on City of West Palm Beach's board for reentry, the county commission task force, the corrections task force, as an expert in this field. So to answer your question, we do have a vital role in protecting the community, because if we can get our clients on track, we can get the services that they need, they're not going to reoffend. So we started a reentry prison out in Pahokee. The reoffense rate for people that leave that prison is a fraction of what it is for people who don't go through that prison in Florida, because they're getting services, job coaching, GED, all that good stuff. So it's a proven track record there that we started here in Palm Beach. And we'll continue on. It's been a model. I've heard the sheriff talk about it. It's been a model all over the state. And I'm hoping, I'm praying it'll start to go in different places. But right now it's in Palm Beach.
I think Dan brings up an important point about relationships. One of my earliest cases was a gentleman arrested on Atlantic Avenue, a DUI and a GoPed. GoPed's like a motorized scooter. Delray Beach officer arrested him on Atlantic Avenue. We went to trial. He was found not guilty for the DUI, but he was found guilty for second refusal, so he got 6 months in jail. But the reason why I say this story is I became very good friends with that police officer, and I am to this day, just retired not too long ago. Dave Ehrenberg I was appointed as one of his original members of the state Sober House Task Force. It is very important for the public defenders and the state attorneys to have a good relationship. Back in 1999 and 2000, it seemed like it was a more cordial relationship. You're adversarial for cases in court, but outside of that, there could be good relationships, not only for the state attorneys and the public defenders, but also for the staff and the judges. So having that great relationship is very, very important to make sure judicial economy goes forward. I got the buzzer.
It is. Okay, so and it bounces back
Oh.
for closing statements. Yeah, I think you start off.
Okay. Closings. Okay. So I hope.
What? Wait,
Oh, yeah.
do we have time? I guess we could.
Want to do
We'll
that
take
first?
one of the questions from the floor.
Sure.
Andy?
Mr. Eisinger,
Yeah.
for many years I was a psychiatric nurse. And here you say that you're connecting offenders with mental health professionals. If this is out of your scope, I apologize, but where?
Sure. So actually in court, we have an agreement with South County Mental Health, Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network, United Healthcare District of Palm Beaches, Lord's Place, and a few others. And they're essentially coming to court every other Thursday, and they're meeting the clients where they are. Oh, and I forgot Mental Health America, which are caseworkers themselves. So we put them together, we develop a treatment plan, and then it's up to the providers and the clients to get together outside of court and follow through with the treatment. So far it's been working wonderfully. The funding's been there. So I know Adam talks about needing to be an expert in getting funding. We got it. We got plenty of funding for that program, no problems. And the reoffense rates for the folks that are going through that court are way down. We are not seeing the frequent people that used to come through the court all the time with mental health problems. But I give all the credit, frankly. I started the court, but I give all the credit to the providers. They have been absolutely amazing. That's why we celebrated them a couple days ago.
Any questions for both Dan and Jay?
Mr. Eisinger,
Sure.
you said that teenagers that are in prison don't have the full capacity. I think a 17-year-old knows more than, say, a 13-year-old.
Sure.
And again, a lot of these people, they come from broken homes.
Yeah.
Their parents are addicts, they could be in jail, so they learn from home, they don't know any better.
Yeah.
And today you have kids who committed rape or committed kill or a homicide. And how many get paroled and yet shortly after they're paroled, get right back in, they don't know any better. what can you do to help prevent that
Yeah.
from happening?
Yeah, so in Florida, we actually don't have parole anymore, believe it or not. You serve 85% of your sentence at a minimum. That changed many, many years ago. I think the ticket to success with people coming out of prison is you can't expect them to be different and to change their behavior if you put them right back into the same situation where they started. So right now, when you get out released from prison, you get a $50 check and a bus ticket for most of the prisons in Florida. That's a recipe for disaster. Contrastly, like at Sago Palm, the prison out west, you have a caseworker that's working with you. So if when you are released, we know where you're going. There's a job set up for you. There's services ready for you. We have to realize that we can't just keep arresting people and hope for a different outcome. We have to do something. We have to give people the benefit of services to make sure they don't come back. In terms of the age difference between the two kids you mentioned, you're right. And that's why it's important for the judges to have discretion, right? So if it's a 17-year-old, he probably could be or should be treated differently than a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old, right? But we need to make sure judges have that discretion. Automatic life sentences for 13-year-olds is just wrong. And that's what the Supreme Court said. So thankfully, judges have more discretion now than they did, before Brian Stevenson did his amazing litigation years ago.
Why don't we go to,
Closing.
Something.
Are there any Zoom questions?
where there? I don't see any hands raised.
Hey, Jim, got a question?
Going once,
Yes.
everyone's muted, but no one's hand is raised, so,
Okay.
okay, Dan.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having us, Delray Democrats. It's been a pleasure. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last 6 months or 8 months or so. It takes a lot for someone to take time from their day, their night, and come to a meeting like this, I think. And a big thank you, of course, to Michael for always being here for all of you. I'm glad we did this. I think it's important that you see the differences between us. I think it's pretty clear, at least to me, that I have a track record for doing the work. I've built that office with Carey the best I knew how to develop the reputation that we have, to bring in the lawyers that we bring in year after year after year, to develop the relationships and the reputation, more importantly, that we have. I have worked on our budget. I have done contracts with experts. There's not a piece of that office that I've not been part of for the last 20 years. I know in my heart that I'm most qualified for this position because I've been doing it and doing it and doing it for all these years and doing it well. I encourage you, talk to deputies, talk to bailiffs, talk to judges that you know, talk to prosecutors, talk to defense lawyers that are in court every day, and they'll tell you that I'm genuine, that I'm authentic, and that I mean what I say and I say what I mean. And I hope I've earned your support as we go to August for this oh so important election. I really, really thank you for your time and patience.
Well, I'd like to dedicate my closing to Angela Burns. Oh, Angela,
Hey,
how are you?
look at that.
Angela Burns is, well, she's one of our great Delray Beach City Commissioners.
Right.
And,
And a former member of our board.
and one of our great deputies from Delray. I didn't recognize you. Usually she's wearing green. Great to see you both.
Just coming from a affordable housing board meeting.
Well, that was probably more exciting. Oh, no, thanks for coming. It's an honor to be here with you. And as Dan said earlier, it's great to have the opportunity just to discuss our viewpoints and our similarities and differences, just the two of us. Because generally it's, state attorneys are going first and the defense attorneys or public defender candidates are going second. So I thank you for the opportunity, Michael. I believe that I can bring some needed change to the office, just like Carey Haughwout did in 2000. I think that we have a very good office, but there can be some improvements. And I think a good outside eye can bring that in. A few of the things that I propose, as I talked about earlier, I believe that Palm Beach County particularly needs a juvenile mental health court. If it's good in over 500 different courtrooms throughout the country, including Red, Texas, I think we can use that here, and I think it'd be a very beneficial to the residents here in Palm Beach County. I think the technology used could be improved. We are an AI society now. Mayor Greg Weiss, who is on the county commission, is an expert in that. I think if you go to the website, you'll see how antiquated it is. It looks the same as when I left 20 years ago. And third, I like fully staffed satellite courtrooms. As I said, when I started 6 months after I started, I did 6 months at Gun Club. Then I went in front of, I think it was Judge Ken Stern. There were 3 of us, Kathy Iho, Brian Silvers, and myself. We were in court every day. Now you see one of the public defenders in front of Judge D'Amico after the defendants speak to the state attorneys. To me, that's not right. That's going on here in Delray. That's going on in Palm Beach Gardens at the PGA courthouse. To me, the satellite courthouses, and particularly the South County residents in Delray, we deserve fully staffed courtrooms. So August 20th, I hope you consider me. You can find out some more information at votefrankel.com. And I appreciate Michael and everyone having me tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And,
Well done.
okay, so,
That's it.
yeah.
I got an informal question.
Sure.
Is there ever a case where you didn't know whether
They're guilty
whether
or
you're
not.
guilty or not?
Question you never asked. You
Yeah,
never
right.
asked.
And you don't want to.
It's the jury or the judge that decides.
You don't want to know.
Yeah.
You
Not
don't want to say I did it.
Nice. But now do we have a Delray Beach City up there? Oh,
I have a time. Yeah. Yeah. How are you doing? Nice to see you.
These are the only two who are.
Yeah, it's usually they do with state attorney and there's something they did it this one. It's gonna be recorded, finalists. It is recorded. They're gonna, I can send it. Yeah. They're fun.
They are.
Well, they have. My God. They have a snack.
We're gonna have,